thank you for joining us today.
No, thank you for inviting me.
We were not quite sure if you were going to be able to make it today because of the government shutdown last week, but here you are.
We survived it. I made the trip.
That's great. So our talk is titled A View from the White House. So my first question must be, what is going on at the White House? I'm not done yet. What is going on at the White House's Office of Science and Technology Policy, where you are? And how has the office evolved over the last year?
Yeah, absolutely. So the office currently is about 50 folks, and I think what's kind of important to remember, it's always putting the office in context within the greater White House. The White House policy is sort of created through a policy coordination process, and the different factors that go into it are the different policy councils. So you have a National Economic Council led by Gary Cohn, you have a Domestic Policy Council, National Security Council, you have us, and each of us play an important role in shaping what the policy priorities are of the White House, and also contributing to the various issues of the day. So we spent the last year kind of building out our team on the tech side, which I'm most focused on and leading. We cover a wide variety of verticals. We have people covering cybersecurity, covering our international portfolio. We have folks on emerging technologies, including drones, autonomous vehicles, AI. We have people covering quantum, STEM education. So it's a robust team that spends a lot of time thinking about how you can coordinate policy across the agencies. What's always key to remember and to kind of put in context is the White House doesn't make laws, it doesn't produce regulations. That's all done at the agency level. So we play a very important role in coordinating some of it. And we've been doing a lot of that on AI, so I'd love to share that at some point.
So how important is AI as a tech priority to this administration?
Yeah, so it's been a big priority from the very beginning, and I think what's very interesting about the policy process is there's lots of levers that you can pull to change the way that this massive ship of the federal government moves. And when we started our journey last January, and we understood the imperative of being committed to American leadership in artificial intelligence, we started thinking about what are the different levers we can pull from a White House standpoint to prioritize this issue. And the most powerful lever that we have actually is the way that we direct agencies to spend their budget dollars. And there's a document produced called a Research and Development Priorities Memo, which is co-authored by OSTP and by the Office of Management and Budget. This document is produced annually, and it highlights what the president's and the administration's R&D priorities are for the next fiscal year. That memo is then sent out to the agencies, and the agencies develop their priorities based on that memo. For the first time in the history of our country, machine learning and autonomous systems were specifically called out in our R&D priorities memo. And I think this was a very, very big step. I think there had been previous administrations who had talked a lot about artificial intelligence, wrote a number of reports around artificial intelligence, but I think we were the first administration that actually put dollars behind it. And if you saw the budget that dropped yesterday, R&D year over year spending in the U.S. was increased by 2%. And if you add the addendum dollars that came along after the House and the Senate brokered a deal, there's another $12 billion dedicated to R&D. So this is something that we're deeply committed to. And it doesn't end with R&D dollars. We look for other sort of seminal important documents in how we convey the administration's philosophy, and included artificial intelligence. The National Security Strategy, which was published in late last year, was probably one of our most important documents that came out of the White House. And it specifically called out emerging technologies and specifically called out artificial intelligence as the area we need to focus. So that's kind of been our kind of key levers that we've been pulling. At the same time, there's, as we talk about sort of the future of work here, a lot of work that we've been doing on workforce development, on STEM education, and especially around the regulatory hurdles associated with a lot of these technologies.
So the previous administration did do a few white papers around AI. Do you guys have any plans to do that and to have a white paper and a sort of a central national strategy around AI?
Yeah, so we've taken the position, and I think one that you've seen through our actions over the last year, that again, the folks who are the policymakers and the folks who actually are doing the research and who drive the actual regulations are the people at the agencies. And we set priorities for them through documents like the National Security Strategy and through our priorities memo. And that's where we manifest our policy. And you've seen a big uptick in the focus from everywhere on the basic research side, where the National Science Foundation is focused on sort of human-computer interaction at the basic level, all the way through the Department of Energy, where the Department of Energy is harnessing its 17 national labs and its high-performance computing infrastructure in order to push greater artificial intelligence and machine learning projects. This extends all the way to DoD, where DARPA is doing it. So we're extraordinarily satisfied, and I think what we're most excited about is, for again, the first time in history, it's been prioritized as a budget issue.
So you don't see the necessity of a white paper from your own office around this if the agencies are doing a lot of that?
Yeah, I mean, we're very excited about action, about issues that actually move the ball forward. And we've done it on the budget side, but I think another great example is on the regulatory side. And for us, a lot of emerging technologies in the U.S. are currently being powered or continue to be powered by artificial intelligence. And for us, it's key to get ahead of those regulatory hurdles. And a great example is in the world of drones. So as many of you now know, the way the rules are currently set up, commercial drones are not allowed to fly over people beyond line of sight or at night here in America. And that's putting us actually at a big disadvantage. Some of our greatest companies are actually taking their commercial drones and going abroad. Google is testing in Australia. Amazon is testing in the UK. You have another American company that's setting up shop in Washington so they can drive over the border and fly them in Canada. I mean, these are examples that really resonate with the White House, and we want to ensure that we have a regulatory structure which allows for the next great technology to succeed here in the U.S. And this was an example where the White House took action. The president hosted an event over the summer and heard directly from drone operators about the struggles that are happening with the regs. And a few months later, he signed a presidential memorandum which directed the Secretary of Transportation to establish a drone pilot program. And for the first time in history, you're going to have these commercial drones flying because of an action by President Trump.
So what do you say to folks, some of whom are in this room, who have said to us in the past that they are looking more to the White House for AI direction around AI and AI policy, that they don't really know what the policy is?
I would love to engage with those folks and hear what that means. To us, AI covers so many facets, and I think your conference actually shows that. It covers everything from the way we should be thinking about workforce, the way we should be thinking about our STEM pipeline, the way we should be thinking about regulations, the way we should be thinking about R&D. And these are all issues that we're engaging on and have a great deal to talk about. So I would be very excited to have those conversations.
How are you thinking about things such as funding more AI research in the universities and other academic efforts? A lot of people have been talking about how the big tech companies pluck a lot of those talented folks out of the academic system, and that really needs replenishing. How are you thinking about that, and what efforts, if any, are you guys making around that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first part is really doubling down on our STEM pipeline. It's absolutely important that we have young Americans preparing for potentially academic careers. And the president took action last year when he signed a presidential memorandum directing the Secretary of Education to prioritize STEM education, to dedicate $200 million towards STEM programs. And the private sector came along and they matched that with $300 million. And for an administration which may not necessarily see eye to eye with the tech community on every issue, for certain ones which we definitely agree on, and STEM is one of those. And I think it's a great example of the tech community coming together with the White House to push forward something that's truly important for our nation. And again, you saw a lot of references to that in the budget that dropped on Monday. So for us, it's really focusing on that pipeline that will get folks into STEM programs. And the second piece is to continue to support the great basic research that our national labs and all of our agencies do. And you saw that through our budget.
Let's pull back for a second. We've been talking a lot in this conference about the global AI picture, a lot of discussion about China and how China has said that by 2030 they want AI to be a $150 billion industry. Mm-hmm. Where do you see the U.S. positioned in that sort of race when the Chinese government has clearly embraced AI so much?
Yeah, it's funny. The market cap of NVIDIA, which is one of the largest and most focused companies on artificial intelligence, is a neighborhood of about $130 billion. So, if China can come up with a company of that scale by 2030, I think we'll be in good shape. But for us, I think what's critical is when we think about China and the work that they're doing, it's not surprising to us. They're a developing country that wants their people to reap the benefits that we have for years. They want better health care, they want better cost of living, they want to have better opportunities for everyone in China, and I think it is no surprise that they're tackling this. But it's important to kind of put it in perspective. We have had essentially a 30-year head start on this. We have already put the down payment there. Our lab infrastructure exists. The top 8 and 13 of the top 20 AI programs in the world are in the US. And we have a lot to be proud of of what we have here. But what's important, and what's most important, is to not sort of rest on our laurels, but to continue to feed that incredible pipeline. And that's where we talk about STEM education. And the second big piece is lifelong learning, which I think a lot of people have talked about here. I think that not only touches the question about displacement, but more importantly about the job retraining that Americans are going to have to undertake throughout their careers, which maybe our grandparents never had to deal with. And here again, you see the president taking a lot of action. He signed an executive order promoting apprenticeships this summer, and he has been very vocal about the importance of stepping up and promoting our technical and vocational schools. In the budget that came out on Monday, in the infrastructure package that came out on Monday, there was a whole section on workforce, and what was, I think, a very interesting idea there was essentially ask Congress to change Pell Grants so that you could apply those Pell Grant dollars towards retraining programs for in-need or highly technical skills. And I think opportunities like this are what's going to keep us in the lead, ensuring that we have the pipeline of STEM-educated students, and we have the programs necessary to retrain folks in years to come. And the last thing, which I think is key, I forgot to include, is the regulatory environment that ensures that the next great technologies happen here in the US. I cannot stress enough how laser focused we are on that. Whether it's drone operators coming to talk to us, whether it's autonomous vehicle operators coming to talk to us, we are absolutely committed to making sure that we have the best and friendliest regulatory environment for our next emerging technologies to thrive.
Take us into the White House a little bit. What is technology like inside of the White House?
Well, I think we should think about it more about technology across government more broadly, and I think it leaves a lot.
Come on, Michael. Come on. I'm fishing for some color here.
It leaves a lot to be desired, and I will say that's why one of our first key initiatives coming out of last year was our IT modernization initiative, with Senior Advisor Jared Kushner led, and I think it's something that I came from the tech community. I was on Slack. I had cloud email. Those words are foreign to a lot of people in government. So I think we have a lot of steps to make to make it better.
And how have you seen the president use technology apart from Twitter? Does he love other tech?
He is laser focused on driving job growth in the U.S. and technology is such a big part of that. He very enthusiastically participated in the American Leadership in Emerging Technology event that we talked about. It was a moment where the president can interact directly with folks from the drone community. There's another set of folks that are driving and leading a lot of the innovations around 5G, and there were a number of venture capitalists in the room. And it was an opportunity for everyone to kind of come together and talk about how can you create the best environment in the U.S. for our next great companies to succeed here. And that's been kind of our number one priority at the tech shop at OSTP, is promoting emerging technologies here in the U.S.
We'll go to questions in a minute, but can you talk a little bit about how AI is being used in government, if at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's a number of programs that we started touching on. I think on the basic research side, you have NSF funding a bunch of grants associated with sort of the basic side of human-computer interaction. But what I think one of the best examples, and I think is this new MVP program, the Million Veteran Program that was launched by the Secretary of Energy and the Department of Veteran Affairs. As you all know, the VA medical data is actually incredible. You're able to track these soldiers for many, many years and have full medical history of them, and the ability to tap into that and actually use AI and machine learning to improve healthcare outcomes has actually been a challenge over the last few years. It hasn't been something the VA has been very open to doing, and it's something that we were actually able to get done last year. And what we've been seeing over the last few months is massive amounts of data sort of being ported over from VA into the Department of Energy, into our national labs that have this incredible high-performance computing infrastructure and supercomputers. just yesterday, I was at Berkeley National Lab, just north of here, and there was a very noticeable excitement about this program. This idea that we have this incredibly valuable healthcare data that's actually, it's kind of pretty rare in the U.S. to be able to tap into that, and we'll be able to drive better health outcomes for our veterans and to really take care of our warfighters.
Great. Let's see if the audience has any questions. Can't quite see. Oh, right over there. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Kratsios. I work for a startup here in Silicon Valley. We had Mark Benioff come in and speak to us earlier today, and he brought up concerns around how content in social media manipulates over opinion and sort of changes the perspective. I would love to hear your thoughts from a regulatory perspective, how you see all this.
Yeah, I think this is an issue that needs to be looked at carefully. I think I think my office is not in this sort of an antitrust space, so I don't think I have a particular insights on how you measure that particular question. But I think it's important and for all of our technology companies to be very cognizant of kind of what the impact of a lot of their technologies have.
Other questions? Another back there. Can't see if there's any other hands. Yeah.
Hi, Zini Ugrinsky, Booz Allen Hamilton. I'd like some visibility into how you're thinking through privacy concerns, bias in algorithms. Is that an area that you're even touching on, or is that being handled by another area of the government?
Yeah, so generally speaking, I think the way that's actually a very good question, and I think it really shines light on the way we philosophically think about regulation around AI. And the question for us is, and something that we've kind of come to the conclusion of, we need to look more carefully at the specific use cases, the broad general rules associated with AI. I think are extraordinarily hard to pull off successfully. So let me give you examples. Drones, for example, are ones where it's a very specific technology that captures, that utilizes AI, that has specific privacy concerns. You don't want a drone flying and peering into somebody's window. We don't have blanket privacy rules for AI simply. We have regular privacy rules that can be applied to this technology that utilizes AI. And the same goes, I think, with medical data. HIPAA exists, and what we need to think is, does it need to be improved or modified based on the way that artificial intelligence impacts it? And the last example, which I think is very telling, is the question of autonomous vehicles that we're spending a lot of time on these days. For the last 50 years plus, NHTSA has put out rules associated with the safety of vehicles in a very specific way. The rules are tailored such that they talk about what a steering wheel looks like, what a gas pedal looks like, what a mirror looks like. But we're entering an environment where that's not going to be the case anymore. GM came out and said they're going to have a car without a steering wheel by 2019 at CES. So we as regulators, I think very carefully about this issue and be able to spend a lot of time thinking about how do you ensure this vehicle is safe, given that the current safety protocols will in no way reflect what's there. So Secretary of Transportation released 6 RFIs at CES and essentially had a data call from the entire community to come to DOT and let them know what is the right way to ensure safety. And I think that is how we generally look at artificial intelligence. And I think that, excuse me, also reflects the way we look at AI globally. As many of you are very aware, forums like G7, like G20, like APEC, in a lot of these areas you have folks coming together wanting to talk about artificial intelligence. And our general position is we're not looking for or will be endorsing broad, high-level guidelines about AI rules. For us, it's important that we think collectively and internationally to think about how can we empower the next great innovations to occur? How can we create environments where innovations will happen? And how can we support and endorse multi-stakeholder dialogue about next steps forward?
We are out of time. I saw a few other hands back there. Do we have time for one more? Or?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Jonathan Darianani from Cognotion. Thank you for coming. I know that there's many people in the audience, myself included, are somewhat ambivalent at best about the administration, but I appreciate your efforts in trying to do what you do within the context that you do it. There was an article that came out, I think today in the New York Times, about Russian 2018 hacking focus, and I wonder are you a resource to the administration to the extent that there is any interest in technology-enabled solutions to be shared at the state level to protect election integrity? Is that something you've been asked to work on? Do you have thoughts and opinions about that, and how, as the sort of main technology advisor to the federal government, you might contribute to safeguarding the elections or providing tools and technology insights to the states to do the same?
Yes, I think that's a very important issue. Our office personally does not handle that. That is handled by the National Security Council and led by our Assistant President for Homeland Security, Tom Bossert. But to the extent that we can provide technical assistance or advice, we would be delighted to do so. And I think I don't find all surprising, but many of you may. I think it's actually a great place to work at the White House. I think you have a number of teams that are all working together in tandem to solve some of the toughest problems this country faces. And AI is one of them, workforce is one of them, STEM education is one of them, and I think we're all here to try to do our best to drive economic growth and jobs. So anything we can do to do that, we're there.
Michael, thank you so much for coming. I know you're sticking around a little bit in case folks have questions for you.